Once upon a time, there was a large group of happy animals living in a large, distant forest. One beautiful, sunny day, they decided to have a race between two of them. The rabbit decided to enter this race, but the strange thing is that the tortoise also decided to enter this race against the fast rabbit, knowing full well that she was slow and would not be able to catch up with the fast rabbit. And indeed, the amazing race began between the fast rabbit and the slow tortoise. They started running, and the rabbit was able to outrun the tortoise by great distances, and she was unable to catch up with the fast rabbit, who was confident of himself to the point of arrogance. The tortoise was poor and patient, but the rabbit outperformed her and was able to surpass her by very great distances. But the rabbit suddenly sat under a tree and continued thinking and said, "Why don't I rest a little and eat some food and sleep a little, because the distance between me and the tortoise is very big and the tortoise will not be able to reach here except after a very long time." He continued eating until sleep overcame him and slept a lot and sank into a long sleep until some animals came and looked at him and laughed at this sight because he was in a race. But he left the race and slept and came after the little rabbits and tried to wake him up, but his sleep was very deep and he could not get up. Then the lion came and warned the little rabbits not to wake him up because this is not fair. The rabbit continued sleeping until the tortoise reached him and looked at him and stood next to him to reassure him. Then he continued the race. The tortoise continued on its way to the race and continued its pursuit with patience and great effort and faced many difficulties from rocks, waterfalls, water, thorns and trees, but with patience it was able to overcome all these hardships. The rabbit was still asleep and in a deep sleep, but suddenly he woke up and remembered the race and continued to run quickly until he caught up with the tortoise. He continued to run with all his might so that he could catch up with the tortoise, but it seemed that the tortoise's patience had paid off beautifully, as it had actually reached the finish line, surrounded by a large group of happy animals that were close to winning, and everyone was cheering and applauding it for this historic achievement. The tortoise had actually reached the finish line in a historic achievement that no tortoise had ever achieved against a fast rabbit before, and thus the tortoise was able to achieve a miracle that would not be repeated often.